Hello and welcome to another episode of Susfaction.
Today is a Kyle-centric episode with Acela helping me out. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Isella, and we're your hosts. Helping as much as I can, because you did the majority of the research on this one.
Okay, so today we're talking about the Manhattan alien abduction. It happened November 30th, 1989, to a Linda Napolitano. And she says that she hovered above her bed and was hovering outside of her window in Manhattan.
In Manhattan, that's so crowded.
Yeah. Well, there were 23 witnesses.
Okay.
Supposedly, allegedly.
Allegedly.
And she said that when she entered the craft, there was a group of beings around her, kind of your typical alien abduction story.
Okay.
That it was bright, and they seemed to be focusing on her stomach, and that one of the beings came at her with a syringe, like a needle that was the size of a turkey baster.
Okay.
And I quote, "That isn't friendly," is what she says.
Well, maybe it's a little too friendly.
Right.
But no, I know what she means. Yeah. No, it's violating.
Right.
Yeah.
Her story has been developed over time by her hypnotic regressions done by a man named Bud Hopkins and his wife Carol Hopkins, who was Bud was somewhat of a gullible man, and he believed her wholeheartedly. His wife Carol, however, was skeptical of everything. In general, she was just a skeptic, but she wanted to find a scientific basis for everything.
Yeah, well, her upbringing, I Googled her a little bit. Her upbringing, she basically was living in a cult.
Yeah.
And so questioning everything, which is what we're all about here at Susfaction.
Yeah.
Questioning everything ended up being her downfall in the cult that she grew up in. She was kicked out of because her father had enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, I know she was really reluctant to speak about that. And there was a Netflix special 3-part series called The Manhattan Alien Abduction. And on that is what I watched to research for this. And she was very reluctant to speak about it, but she ended up talking about it. But aside from that, Bud reaches out to Linda because he thought it sounded like an alien abduction, like a true alien abduction.
Yeah, it sounded plausible, and I also looked up what makes an alien abduction or alien encounter believable, and she hit 2 out of the 3 marks. One is corroborating evidence through radar, which we didn't have, but she did have multiple witnesses. How many did you say she had?
23.
And physical traces, so strange marks on the body, which I'm sure you'll talk about.
She had a lump in her nose that was supposedly a surgical scar from a nose implant. Now, there was the x-rays of this implant, which looked to me kind of like a swirly, it just looks like a swirly piece of metal or something.
To me, it looked like a nose piercing.
Yeah, it could, that too. It looked like it could have been like the hook of a nose piercing.
Right.
Also, Carol Hopkins did say at one point the same effect could be done by taping something to the outside of your nose.
Okay.
And taking an x-ray of it. So it's, to me, okay, if you can't tell already, I'm a little bit skeptical of this particular abduction, just because of Linda and the way she came off to me, I guess.
Well, the way she was portrayed is actually a really big deal because she's suing Netflix.
Oh, really?
Yes. She is currently in a lawsuit with it. And I looked into the lawsuit a little bit. Actually, I took some notes. Her lawsuit It's she says the docu-series, The Manhattan Alien Abduction, defames her by including interviews and content from Carol Rainey, a skeptic of her story and the ex-wife of the UFO investigator who first publicized the case. She's suing Netflix because she said that producers misled her and that the film undermines her name and character. She is joined in the suit by a friend of Hopkins who appeared in the film, and she hopes to get monetary damages. And she wanted to get the release of the docuseries blocked, but that didn't happen.
Go figure, she
Um,
wants more money.
yeah, she's suing for fraud, defamation, and breach of good faith and fair dealing, alleging the documentary, yeah, um, falsely portrays her story by making her look like a villain and misrepresenting her appearance.
They say it's in the edit, but you can't really blame the edit when you bring yourself or you portray yourself that way.
Right.
Like, she made money off of the Netflix series already, obviously, and it's a documentary, and it's so hard for lawsuits against documentaries to go through
Right.
and ever mount to anything.
Yeah. And the people that, well, the person who she has the biggest fight with is no longer around to
Yeah.
fight back.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be Carol.
Right.
But yeah, lawsuit. Huh? Yeah, she died in 2023.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Mm.
My bad.
I'm sorry. No, if it's, let's see, because I googled her. So
Okay, so I just went silent for a second because I didn't realize that Carol had passed.
yeah,
So,
not that long ago though. So
right.
it's, yeah.
Well, see, and she like threatens Carol in the final part of the series.
I don't
Like her words are, "You don't come or come for Linda, and there will be no warning," or something like that.
right. Yeah,
Was
she
very,
definitely was.
it was very threatening.
She was aggressive in
Yeah.
her comments.
So I think she kind of portrayed herself that way. It's not like
Yeah.
Netflix did it. But
Right.
anyhow, aside from talking about Linda and Carol and Bud Hopkins' character, Carol filmed Linda's case, the whole thing, like all the past life regressions. She filmed her day-to-day life. She says that, she says that Linda was always put on for the camera. She had her hair and makeup done every single day that they filmed, like even when they weren't filming. She was always wearing her best for the cameras, and this and this even goes on to like her going on to numerous talk shows. She was on Ricky Lake. That she appeared behind a blind.
Yeah,
So she
she
was
said she would
silhouetted.
only be she would only be on there if she could be a silhouette.
And then Oprah, and then Geraldo.
Yep.
And then another thing about Linda, just as a fun fact that we learned from the documentary series, is that she wanted to be a singer growing up, and she had a group, and Mercury Records picked up her singing group, naming her Lynn Long. She was clearly talented, and in my opinion, that the search for fame could have driven her to seek publicity elsewhere, other like an alien abduction or something. And clearly, she had an alien abducted case. So why not?
And Carol talked a lot about how when Bud's interest would seem to wane, or like the story seemed to be like winding down, Linda would come up with new facts, new information to make the story more exciting and reel Bud back in.
Exactly, just like when she mentioned Dan and Richard. Now, these are two men that supposedly came to her apartment. They said that they were government agent officials or agents for some kind of like the Secretary General or something like that. And Dan supposedly saw her in a beam of light, and I don't know what that refers to. It was kind of unclear. But she also had another experience where she was wired, and she got abducted by these two agents,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
this Dan and Richard. And she, like, there was, you could hear there was like a struggle, her not wanting to be in the car, them telling her that she was a half breed,
Yeah.
and like a lot of very spooky and
And there is audio evidence. You can hear her in a struggle with the voice of a man, and that was a real tape that was
right.
actually recorded. So, I mean, that's real. That happened.
Right.
Whether
Well, we don't know for sure if it was made, if she had orchestrated this
Mhm.
abduction, or if it happened like fluidly, and that's something Carol um Hopkins Rainey, um that's what she had said, like she didn't know if it was um orchestrated or if it was
Okay, yeah.
real.
Yeah.
And there was another time with them calling witnesses. One of the witnesses was an elderly woman who who couldn't remember if she saw her on the south side or the north side of the
Mhm.
bridge, so she wasn't completely um
Reliable.
reliable as a witness. And
Yeah.
then another woman, to Carol, sounded awfully a lot like Linda.
Yeah,
And when they
on the
tried to
phone.
call her back,
They
one
could
time
never reach
they
her.
couldn't reach her. She was in the
Yeah.
shower, and then the next time she went straight to bed,
Yeah.
and it was very just,
Wasn't it like 4:30 in the afternoon? She
yeah,
went to bed. Oh, she went to bed.
it was very suspicious. It was
Yes.
very sus.
Yes, it was.
Now, aside from all this, Bud had like this undying devotion to Linda, and believed her story wholeheartedly. He wanted to write a book about it and make a movie, which seemed to drive a lot of the what do I
Interest. The
the
interest
interest
he had,
forward.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was in the middle of writing a book when he started working with Linda. It was called Witnessed. So he had already had a book out before that, and he was writing a book called Witness or Witnessed. I don't have the title correct, like exactly, but he was already working on it. And what Carol had said was that all of his notes and stuff, he just kind of like wrote into the book, just like there was nothing suspicious or no flags in any of the conversations that he had had with Linda. But when she went and looked at the notes, she was able to find some discrepancies. But she thinks he so badly wanted to just keep writing the book that he overlooked those things.
Right. Right. And I feel like a sense of protection from Carol
Mm-hmm.
towards Bud, because
Yeah.
like, even because she said that she admits to anything that she had done to perpetuate the story,
Mm-hmm.
um, because she doesn't believe it. She thinks
Yeah.
it's a hoax. And then there's many people that 100% believe Linda and that her story is real. Now, even like, I don't want to bring up her son's story so much, but even her son had supposedly been abducted.
Right.
So, like,
Yeah.
out of just respect for him as a kid, happening at, trauma
Well,
as a
that and
child, but
he cares for his mother. It's in the documentary.
yeah,
He says, she chose to be a mother and she was a great mother. She was good at being a mother. He says there was a time he went to his mom after he'd had a bad dream, and she was very comforting to him. The only flag that I got in that conversation was when he said that she told him that it was probably real, that the,
yeah,
the bad dream he had was probably real. Like, why would you say that to your kid?
right.
I wouldn't say that to my kids. Even if I believed it was real, I would not tell them that at the time. I'd wait till they were older to discuss it with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd just try and calm them and comfort them, and not get too deep into that being real
Right.
at that age.
Exactly. And he was blacked out in the documentary, so you can't see his face, which, I mean, I understand, because you don't want something from your childhood that was probably the most important part of his life, was this alien abduction that happened to his mother,
Yeah.
to follow you into adulthood and be the only identity you have.
Right. Oh, definitely not. Especially because it's still probably confusing, especially now because they've just did a documentary about it and she's in court about it, and it it's not over. There's no way to get closure when it's not over.
Right, exactly. And now I wanted to talk about the fact that like this was a particularly hard case for me to like research just because I was torn too many different directions with it. And like just because like the hypnotic regressions, um it seemed like to Carol, I'm talking for Carol now, but in Carol's perspective, she said that the regressions from other people that
Hmm.
Bud did seemed really authentic. They were almost slurring their words like they had been drunk or something.
Like, yeah.
But with Linda, she spoke as if she was telling a story completely clearly and turned her head towards Bud a little bit.
Yeah, she
Mind you,
was.
she was also fully hair and makeup even then.
Yes, she was. Which Carol, I do want to shine a little bit of light on Carol from before this whole thing with Bud. She was a documentarian. That's
Yeah,
what her job was. She was someone who was behind the camera, full stop, watching and waiting for things to happen organically and naturally, because that's what documentarians do. They don't
yeah,
interfere. So for her to watch and form an opinion, uh, she was still just watching. She didn't speak her mind at the time because that wasn't her job. That
right.
wasn't her place. Um, and nor was that what she was used to doing. That's why it took her a while to come forward and say, "Hey, I don't actually believe any of this."
Yeah,
So for anyone who's wondering, well, why didn't she say anything back then when he was writing the book and all of that? Well, that's why. That was she was being professional.
right. Exactly.
Yes. No, but I 100% agree with you with the hypnosis. Because I learned a little bit about it when I did the Betty and Barney story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and how when you do regression um hypnosis, you to like bring up memories, it has strong emotion tied to it.
Yeah,
And some of those false memories can happen, especially if you have a hypnotist that is opinionated on the topic,
right.
where Bud was. He really
Was
wanted to
biased.
believe and help people that had been abducted. That was where his heart was. He wanted to help people who had been abducted and help them through it. So his bias was always towards believing it.
Right.
Um uh but it's also a slippery slope. He did originally, when he started doing the hypnosis with other abductees, he was working with a psychologist. So it wasn't just him, but then eventually it was just him performing the hypnosis. So
Right. Well, honestly, in a nutshell, like Linda Napolitano, I can't say her last name. Napolitina, Napolitano, whatever, something like that. Sorry if I butchered it. Linda, she had an experience that supposedly had 23 witnesses, and it was enough for a man to take her story and run with it and try to regress her to get more information out of this abduction to try and piece all these puzzle pieces together.
yeah,
And um his wife documented it all and later saw that these pieces didn't fit. So like I feel like it's you could go six of one and half a dozen of the other when it comes to being on either side. Just
yeah,
because Carol, her influences were protecting her husband from what she thought was fraudulent, and
mm-hmm,
then Linda protecting herself from people and their judgments of her.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And the abduction, like, it coincided with the blackout in the area supposedly,
yeah,
and one of the several of the witnesses were never identified. Like you were saying, one of them sounded like Linda.
yeah,
One of them they could never get a hold of. Another didn't have a clear enough memory. Dan and Richard may have never even existed.
Right.
um, and then you have Janet, and you have who talks about lights in the sky and during the blackout, and then you have another woman who was afraid to even open the curtain, so she didn't really see anything.
Right.
Um, and it's just hard to really piece together what happened or didn't happen because the evidence was always kind of spotty. And you have so that Richard and Dan, they were supposedly security for Javier Perez de, ooh, I cannot say that last name. Um but he denied being involved in any sort of incident. That
Yeah.
he's like, no, we never saw anything. So if he never saw it, then how did his security detail that's supposed to be right next to him protecting his life see anything?
Right. Well, then the identities of this Dan and Richard are all over the place too, because one minute they're government officials for the Secretary General, and then they're like security for another guy, and then they were supposedly spotted on film, which they
Mm-hmm.
pointed out. Linda pointed him out,
Mm-hmm.
saying that's Dan, and
Yeah.
that's the guy that came into her home. And then when she got him out of their home, one of like Richard took Dan by the collar of his jacket and was slamming against the wall, and like
Mm.
just all these details that can't be proven.
Right. Nobody could ever find these men because, I mean, the first contact was a letter that they had sent to Bud. The second contact was only with Linda.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third contact, I think, was when they sent a tape of their voice, which she could have had anyone record.
Yeah. So it's
I mean,
it's a really, I mean, as they do such a good job with the documentary, I think
yeah.
piecing it all together and putting it in like sequence, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Because of how much there is to the story. It was really quite difficult to kind of learn this story, just because everybody has a different opinion. Everyone's supporting a different person. Like there were Bud's colleagues supporting Bud,
Yeah.
but then also questioning Linda, but also saying that Carol was scorned, like all these things. And it it was just kind of a mess.
Well, it did ruin their marriage. It ended up ruining Bud and Carol's marriage because she did. Uh, I guess she wasn't comfortable enough speaking to him about it, so she
Yeah.
went ahead and wrote an article or something, and I'm sure that kind of ignited some sort of argument. Why wouldn't it?
Right.
And I know that they ended up divorcing. He did meet someone else and remarry and have a great time before he ended up passing from cancer in 2011. Um, when you Google Bud Hopkins, his profession is artist.
Oh,
Yeah, artist, and then it also brings up his books, and that's it.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. That's strange.
I know. I mean, it brings it all up, and then once you get into, because it does the books itself, they tell this story.
Right. And I believe on one of the talk shows, he's considered a ufologist.
Yeah, ufologist. He
So,
is. He is considered a ufologist, but when you Google him, it says artist, and he has some pretty interesting art, but nothing to do with aliens.
no. Wow. That's crazy. Well,
Yeah.
that's what I found, and that's what I gathered from the Manhattan alien abduction. I implore you to go and watch the Netflix series if you want more information on it, because there is a lot. You get to see like the tension between two women on two opposite sides of the spectrum when it comes to alien abduction, and um, you also get to know a man's story of just his undying belief in UFOs and
Yeah.
abduction.
Yeah. And like I said, he wholeheartedly wanted to help people.
Yeah.
He had an abductee support group, and he regressed lots of people, and none of them have had their stories told this way.
Right.
So,
And you could hear the passion in his voice and how much he cared when Linda called him after she was abducted, after
mm-hmm.
she was wired up and everything.
Yeah.
Just the way he said, "Oh, Linda, come to
Yeah.
the house and we'll talk about it." Like, you could tell in his voice how much he cared
Yeah.
and how much he didn't want this to affect people negatively. He just wanted to learn what had happened to these people.
Yeah. He seemed like a genuine guy. Like he didn't seem to have any like ulterior motives or
Yeah.
anything like that. He wanted to get the word out about abductions. He wanted people to believe that they were happening, and he wanted to support those that had been through it.
Right.
And that was his entire goal. Um, Carol wanted to support her husband. It even and in the documentary she even says like she does believe there's something out there.
Oh yeah.
She's like, it'd be dumb to think there isn't anything out there.
Yeah.
But she doesn't believe Linda.
Right.
And that's the whole skepticism there is it's just Linda's story. She
That's her
struggles to
message, is
believe.
that she just doesn't believe Linda.
Yeah.
So she even once calls her a very good actress.
Yes, she does. She does
So.
call her a very good actress. And Linda doesn't say nice things about Carol.
Nope.
Not at all.
Not at all. Well, do you have anything else?
Not for this one, no.
Okay. Well, if that's it, then again, thank you for listening, and be sure to come back for another episode.
We post every week on Thursday. This episode's going to come out a little bit late, but we shoot for 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, trust no one. Question everything.
And if you want to send us any of your stories for us to read on the podcast, you can reach us at susfactionpod@outlook.com. Again, if you want to send us your stories, reach us at susfactionpod@outlook.com. And we also have an Instagram.
Yes, our Instagram is at susfactionpod. We post a teaser every Monday night. The time is not consistent, but it is Monday evenings. Sometimes early, but there will be a teaser every Monday. Next week, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, is Roanoke.
Roanoke.
I'm actually really excited for it because
Me too.
I wanted to learn more about it ever since we learned the tiny bit we learned in school.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Awesome. Well, stay tuned for that. And thank you so much.
bye.
Bye-bye.